Well, hello and welcome back again to this our second return video to the YouTube channel here. Welcome back to Scarborough Paranormal. Now today we've got something rather different. It's not a paranormal investigation, it's not a spirit box session, the ITC box 2, which will actually be explained in this video, is to the usage of it in our paranormal investigations, as well as some of the rest of our equipment. Yes, this video is indeed an equipment review, and going over some of the specifications of the equipment that we've been using for a very long time. A lot of this equipment we've had for 7 years. We started this paranormal stuff 7 years ago. At least I'm pretty sure it was 7 years ago. It might have been 9 when we started getting into the EVPs and everything. So 9 to 7 years ago we started the paranormal investigation journey. So I am now going to go ahead and showcase a whole bunch of the equipment that we use in all of our paranormal investigations. Let's take a peek. Well, and here before you, you see a whole ton of fancy stuff. Yes, all of this is the paranormal research investigation equipment that we use here on the Scarborough Paranormal channel. As I mentioned, a couple of these things we had when we began the paranormal investigation stuff 7 to 9 years ago. So we're going to go over the things that we've got here. I'm not going to go in any particular order, not like starting from the first thing we got or whatever. I'll do that more so when we get into the explanation of the equipment. For this, I'm just going to go over what everything is. So, to make it easy, we'll just start at the top left here. Here we have the REM Pod ET. Over here we have the PSB7 Spirit Box. Of course, the trusty handheld digital recorder for EVP communication. The Gauss Master, that's an EMF detector. The Mel Meter, this is another EMF detector. It also gives you the temperature as well. And then over down here we have our full night vision HD camcorder, as well as the spectrum light, the infrared IR light, which we use when filming with this night vision camcorder. It picks up on the invisible light spectrum given off by this infrared light, allowing us to see in the dark. That is very difficult. Of course, the trusty K2 EMF meter, another EMF meter. EMF, electromagnetic field, is a huge part, of course, of the paranormal investigation. That's Gauss Meter, yeah. Another EMF detector. Good thing about having a big collection of EMF detectors is you can place them around several different places during your investigation. If you want, leave a camera on them, or if it makes a noise, like the Gauss Meter, the Gauss Master, REM Pod detects EMF as well when it's near to the device. You might be able to leave a recorder, a digital handheld recorder nearby, and it'll pick up on the sound of it. And then you can know to check on that later in your evidence review. And we also have the IR thermometer. This is if we're taking a base temperature sweep. We know what temperature we're dealing with. If we have sporadic jumps in the temperature, let's say it starts getting hot in one area or in another place, the temperature drops significantly, there may be some sort of a spirit interaction. We can try and get there. And then finally we've got this little friend here, the Talker 2 digital dowsing device. This is another form of, I guess, spirit box. It produces sounds that you can almost sometimes formulate into words. Sometimes it just sounds like a bunch of garble, but sometimes if you listen closely enough, it's a robotic speech device, and you may be able to form words out of what you hear. So sometimes we've had some decent interactions with it. It's not too bad. It's a good little piece when you use it in the right atmosphere. As I'll explain what it does. It reads EMF fields to produce its voice speech. So I found if it's in an area where there's a lot of constant running electromagnetic field, it just keeps spouting out words, and it's just because of it's reading the EMF field. So now we'll go ahead and jump into all these individual pieces of equipment. Yes. Right, so we'll jump right into our first piece of equipment here, which is your handy handheld digital voice recorder. This is a staple in every paranormal researcher's diet. Yep. This one is a Olympus digital voice recorder VN702PC, and we just picked it up at Best Buy. No special place we ordered this piece of equipment. It's not paranormal equipment. It's just your basic handheld voice recorder. Used for anything to taking vocal notes or leave it running during a meeting or whatever. But you can use this to try and capture EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, which, if you're doing an investigation, the spirits, they're speaking another frequency. Obviously, most of the time we cannot hear this frequency with our own ears, because it's so low. These digital voice recorders sometimes are able to pick up that speech, and depending on the energy level of the entity that is communicating with you, you might have a very clear EVP response that's safe to one of your questions, or even if it's generic, it can be considered a Class A response. If it's intelligent, it makes sense. You can easily tell what it's saying, and it's clear. So, one of my original pieces we started off with, digital voice recorder. Let's bring in the next piece. So, the second piece of equipment that I used when we began our paranormal journey 7-9 years ago is the Gauss Meter. This one we didn't purchase from a fancy paranormal equipment store like a lot of the rest of the equipment we did. We got it at a specific paranormal site online in Canada. This is one of the only things that we purchased off of eBay, because it was right when we first beginning our paranormal investigation research. We found, say, the cheapest price for one of these EMF detectors, and Gauss Master was the cheapest EMF detector we found, and it was on eBay. It's also the only piece of equipment we have that is not sold within Canada. This came from overseas when we got it. All the rest of the equipment we purchased from a Canadian retailer, or several Canadian retailers, depending on which piece of equipment it was. So the Gauss Meter is pretty simple, obviously. Big button on the front, on-off switch. It lights up, it beeps when it detects electromagnetic fields. A lot of the time we'll use this, we'll go around, take a base EMF sweep, find out where the electromagnetic fields are. Sometimes, if you're doing an investigation, if you come across an EMF field, it could be the reason for some of the paranormal experiences someone's experiencing. High levels of EMF can cause hallucinations sometimes. It can cause nausea. It can cause you to think you're seeing things that you're not. So sometimes if you get a report of saying, oh yeah, say for example over there we saw a large white entity and it sort of floated across the room. Yeah, well, okay, very well maybe, but let's plop in an EMF sweep and find out if there's high levels of EMF nearby, and maybe we can debunk if this is an electromagnetic field issue. And then you can try and work on getting those issues resolved, maintenance, whatever. High levels of EMF are bad for you, that they're a health concern. That's one of the things that you should want to be wary of when you're taking an EMF sweep. Put it near things like, active wiring, where wiring is. There's a lamp over there, I put it near there, it's going to go off or something. And if somebody's seen something over there and it happens to be a rather high level of EMF, you never know. It could be EMF is causing mental hallucinations and that person's thinking they're seeing something that's not there. So we'll go on to our next piece. And our third piece of equipment. This is the third one we ever got. Screen's a bit dirty there. That is the PSB7 Spirit Box. This is an ITC research device, as it says here, used for spirit communication. It's a modified radio. It still functions as a radio. It picks up radio station frequencies, and it has different options here. There's sweep rate. So the faster your sweep rate, obviously it's going to scan through channels faster. and you can do it in sweeping forward or sweeping in reverse. I prefer sweeping in reverse because if you're sweeping forward, it might pick up on, say, a radio signal, and a voice from the radio may come through in a split second, and if it's going forward, it's going to be a proper full English word, or depending what language the radio's in, Spanish, French, who knows, but it will be a common sense word. Going in reverse, everyone's going to be talking backwards, so a word is going to be unlikely to be able to be formable and recognizable during your evidence review. So if you hear something and you're sweeping in reverse, I like to sweep at a high rate. That way there's less chance of a radio chatter frequency coming through, less chance of having a broadcaster's voice saying a word or two. Sometimes it lingers on a channel. You might get a couple words thrown in there and sound like a sentence. But if you're sweeping in reverse and at a high rate, less of a chance that you're going to be picking up random words, and it very well could be spirit communication. We've had tons of fantastic evidence captured with the PSP-7 Spirit Box. There's also several apps, of course, on phones. One of the apps that I like to use, I'm wary and skeptical about apps because you never know how people have created them. It's to be some sort of fun entertainment toy sort of thing. It easily forms a word. You never know, is the device listening to you? And it's got a word database bank, and it's extracting words it's matching to your speech, to your tone, and the words it's recognizing you're saying. Who knows with this stuff? But one is the ITC Box 2, Spain Paranormal's ITC Box 2. I've gotten fantastic results with it. I was skeptical using it at first, but I don't always get good responses with it. Sometimes I get absolutely nothing. But I love using that app as one thing because in our research so far it seemed pretty credible. So that's been very useful. So I recommend the PSP-7 and on the Google App Store, the ITC Box 2 from Spain Paranormal to do your spirit box communication. Well, we've had a bit of a change around because the memory space on my phone there, it was getting filled up, so we've had to switch over to our JVC Handheld Camcorder. Not the one on the bed there, not the IR one. This is just our regular camcorder. But our next piece of equipment here is the famous Mel Meter. This is another regular EMF detection device. I power it up here. Second to come on. There we go. Yeah. The big numbers, they represent the milligauss. Obviously, if there's an EMF field nearby, it'll either raise or lower. If it's raised, it's going to lower the further you get away from that EMF field. And the second set of numbers below there, that's the temperature. So currently, we are at a base 70.8 degrees Fahrenheit. So if it significantly drops from that, or even rises, that's something to note as well. The Mel Meter is one of my favorite EMF detectors because it has both the milligauss and the temperature thermometer on it. But it also has different options. One, obviously there's a backlight there. You can turn the screen light on there, depending on the atmosphere you're in. If it's a dark room, you can have your backlight on there. You can read what it says. But I like that it has the record function on here. So if you want to set this down somewhere during your paranormal investigation, as you conduct investigation in another part of the location, you can go ahead and hit record. It'll record any change. It's going to keep the most significant change in its memory database. And when you go back, you go to review the recording, it will show you, it'll change on the milligauss there and the temperature, depending which was a significant change. It will then tell you what the change was, how significant it was, and then you can get an idea that something happened while we were over there. Let's investigate this spot for a bit. That's one way that we like to use it. I like to put the Mel Meter down somewhere. It's just gone off there, turned it off. I like to use it during our baseline sweep so that we get both the EMF, the milligauss, as well as the temperature reading. And then we can base the investigation off of what we found on here. Alright, our next piece of equipment then. The handy dandy K2 EMF meter, another EMF meter, yes. But this is a splendid EMF meter, the K2. Just press big button on the front there to turn it on. There you go, it's lit up, it is now ready to go. This EMF meter is fantastic for trying to initiate spirit communication. And obviously, as you can see there, on the readings of the milligauss, it tells you, let's say, 1.5 up there, 2.5, 10, and then 20 plus milligauss when you start getting into the red. They're all different colored lights up there, and red is the high level of EMF, a strong energy presence. This is fantastic if you want to try and use as a visual communication piece with a spirit you're trying to communicate with. You can ask them to near the device, and if they can make the lights light up, they can go ahead and attempt to do that. And that way you can try and have a communication running back and forth with them. You can ask them to make the next light blink once for yes or twice for no, or you can just simply go off of make it blink for yes, leave it alone for no, that sort of thing. I like using the K2 meter for that type of communication. One video I shot at my uncle and grandma's house. It's on the channel here, not too long ago, 2017. I got some fantastic evidence with it, and they're upstairs. I highly encourage you to go check out that. I think I called it our most compelling evidence, because it was very compelling. I've never had communication like that with the K2 meter before. Maybe once before that, if anything. And I think that once before is on the channel as well. I highly recommend the K2 meter for any starter or professional paranormal investigator. Fantastic piece of equipment, easy to find on the web, fairly reasonable price as well. This was not a very expensive piece that we got here from a Canadian retailer. And 9-volt battery. This stuff holds up very well. Of course, it's all professional equipment. They're very durable. I highly recommend the K2 for spirit communication. Go into our next piece. Right, our next one along here is the Gauss Master. Again, we're just going to go over it. On the back there, it actually has information. It requires a 9-volt battery. How fantastic. There are two methods of measuring EMF using this meter. Method 1. Press the button on the side panel briefly. This measures 1 milligauss to 10 milligauss. Method 2. Press and hold the side panel button. This measures the background levels of EMF as 0.1 milligauss to 1 milligauss. We like to use this. It emits a rather loud screeching sound. We like to use it and place it down somewhere. It does turn off by itself, but while it's running, we keep going back to it and pressing the button and turning it back on again. But if say we're in here and we leave it back out there and we hear it make its noise, we're going to go outside to see what's going on. Gauss Master, very affordable piece as an EMF detector. If you only want one EMF detector, if you don't plan to get many different pieces like, the Mel Meter or the K2 or something, you just want your basic baseline EMF, Gauss Master is your good way to go. Very affordable, durable, practical. As far as I know, these are used by electricians when there's an electromagnetic field, they need to root out a problem or something. Electricians use the Gauss Master. So we'll go on to our next piece. This one is very brief, of course, but it's very basic. There's your scale there. A lovely needle. It reminds me of a tiny compact version of the tri-field EMF meter. We of course don't have one of those. We don't need one actually. We've got so many EMF meters as it is. But that's one of the more high-tech, fancy, expensive pieces of equipment, like the REM Pod. Alright, our next saucy little bit of fun here is the Talker 2. We've got the booklet here. It does say on the back of the Talker disclaimer. First and foremost, the device is designed to aid in paranormal research, not to be presented as evidence. This device can create speech and text by a method of taking energy levels in the environment and creating speech, nothing more. No algorithm is employed to produce text or speech in a specific pattern. There's no person who can prove to a certainty what these messages are. People need to take a rational, grounded approach to any device that creates speech to text. The power of suggestion is very strong. Odds of this device saying a word that is contextually correct is 1 in 2048. In using phonetic speech, the odds are only 1 in 71. A lot of claims have been made about devices such as this. Simple math will tell you the odds are much better than you think. That is just coincidence and nothing more. So yeah, there's the disclaimer from Digital Dowsing on the Talker 2 version 1.0. We've used this sometimes. Sometimes we've gotten some pretty interesting communication off of it. Sometimes we have no idea what it's babbling out, but it's an interesting piece to use. We like to incorporate it whenever we can in our investigations. And, when you're on an investigation, you want to have some fun. Talker 2 is one of the devices you can have quite a bit of fun with. It's a very interesting research device. It says in the front, experimental use only. So, you want to experiment with something, broaden your investigation field, go ahead and try out this thing. Quite fun. Now, something rather standard we got here is just a regular IR thermometer. The Carney DT480 IR thermometer. Very simple. You put it on, you press the trigger here on the front, and then you get the base temperature of the area you're in. Also has a laser beam function on the front. So you got it on, you point the laser at something, it'll take the temperature of that thing that the laser is being pointed at. Otherwise, it'll take your general temperature of the area. It's a fantastic thermometer. We use this a lot. In a lot of our earlier investigations in the channel, probably around the 6-7 year ago mark, you can go back on the channel and find them. We used to do a lot of investigations solely using the temperature thermometer to try and work out spirit communication based on their energy levels, and sometimes they can make an area colder. It is reported that a spirit or an entity may have the ability to reduce the temperature in an area they are in. So obviously that massive energy is giving light to the fact that it is probably of a cooler temperature than the atmosphere around it. So, if something suddenly drops, starts getting chilly, whip out a thermometer and find out. You may just find something compelling if you start investigating with it. Take some pictures as you go around, bring out an EMF meter, and maybe there you go. A spirit box session or two, have a little chat. Now, something that we added later on into our paranormal investigative realm here is the night vision camcorder and the IR spectrum light. This one gives off the pinkish purplish hue when you're recording with the infrared night vision camera. You're able to see in the dark. It's fantastic. I love using this when we do our investigations later in the evening or at night, especially in the basement. Obviously it gets rather dark, you can't see, and when we're filming with the camera that's now filming me currently, you can't see squat. Absolutely nothing. So this thing allows you to be able to see some of the evidence that we're picking up and the equipment while it's being used. This is a very simple camcorder. Also has the ability to take photographs as well while you're filming. So that's fantastic and very useful if you want to take a picture. If you feel something's nearby and you don't got time to get to your digital camera, just hit the button while you're filming and you'll get a nice little picture of the area with the infrared light. Might be able to pick up something better with it. Alright, and as we wrap things around to a close here, we now get into our very new piece of equipment. Our previous video right before this was the unboxing of this piece and me showcasing its features. The REM Pod ET. We've been wanting this device 7-9 years. We've seen it on so many paranormal investigation research teams being used that we said this is one of the pieces of equipment that even the professional paranormal investigators say offers some compelling evidence on investigations. Because if you're leaving it somewhere, say it's sitting up here, say there's a shelf here, whatever, there's no EMF field around this device, you've figured that out in your base sweep at the start, you leave it up there, and you ask the spirit to interact with it, or if it starts going off by itself, the antenna here, there's an EMF field around this. It detects an EMF field. So if it detects a break in that EMF field, it's going to make noise and make some pretty lights here. So you're going to know, oh, abnormal occurrence. What's this? Then you can go ahead and try and attempt some communication there. If you've got an intelligent spirit, you might be able to ask it to communicate by making the REM pod beep and light up. It detects the EMF field as well as the temperature as well. And it's got buttons on the front there to set the this way so I can read it properly instead of upside down. The REM 0 and temp 0. So you want to flip it back to a baseline of 0. If you think something's interfering with it that's obviously not paranormal, you go ahead and flip it to that and then place it somewhere else. I am very eager to use this in our next upcoming paranormal investigation. Going to use it in conjunction with everything else. We're going to have a full investigation using all of our paranormal equipment here that's been showcased in this video. And now we will go ahead and do the outro. Alright, so I have just showcased all the paranormal equipment that we have been using for all of our investigative purposes, as well as our brand new piece, the fantastic REM Pod ET. So, thank you for watching this more so informative video on the Scarborough Paranormal channel. We usually only do the investigative stuff and the evidence reviews, posting a couple of EVP clips here and there, maybe a K2 session. I've got a couple of them up as well. But this one I just wanted to go over and showcase the equipment that we use during our paranormal research investigations. Give an idea of what some people may want to use. I highly encourage, if you see a piece of equipment that interests you, research it, look it up, find more on it, seek out a price. Try and go for a price that's as low as possible. Some of this equipment you'll see on one site, they got priced up in who knows the thousands, $900s, $500. You go to another website, same exact piece of equipment, nothing different, from the same producer, but at a lower price. It's all on the retailer that you pick when you purchase this paranormal investigative equipment, because it's novelty devices. These are things that are not on the common market. People don't just generally going around saying, oh yeah, I went to the dollar store and I bought a PSP-7 today, you know. I'm just going to go chat up some dead guy in the basement. No, it's not. It's not some common stuff. These are things that are taken very seriously. It's scientific research, experimental devices. These are things that help you research another realm that we believe to exist, where once we pass on, our spirits remain and can still communicate with us, still let us know that they are here. Sometimes, if you do an investigation, say a loved one passes away, you want to get some of this equipment. One of the reasons we did start this is to get some consolation and confirmation from them that they're alright and they are at rest, they're happy, they want to still be in contact with you. There's a window for them to do it. Have a PSP-7 spirit box session. Let them make the REM pod light up, ask them to blink the K2. I have found relatives have passed on and you know they've answered on the K2. My grandpa, on one of our sessions in the video, we got a K2 hit, and then a fantastic spirit box EVP that said, "He says you'll be a soldier." And that was fantastic, because it gave me confirmation that my grandpa still knows what I'm doing, he's still looking out for me, and he knows that I am indeed following that path. So, this is just a video I like to create to sort of beef up the channel here, since we're getting back into the swing of investigative research and things. Stay tuned, we're going to have some investigation videos coming up very shortly. Who knows, within a couple days, at latest maybe a week or two. But here we go. Thank you for tuning into the Scarborough Paranormal equipment review film.